Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good afternoon, good evening, or good night, depending where we are catching you in our big, beautiful world. Possibly you're catching this on a replay. Go ahead and let us know. Hashtag replay in the comments. And for those of you maybe just joining us first time, my name's Roderick H. Norville. I am in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I host Full Circle Podcast, What's Your Story? Here on FCTV for the Full Circle podcast community. I'm also one of the coaches at Lost Coaching Academy Online, and one of my favorite things is book club for LCAO. We're making our way through Coach, the A.L. Williams story, and we are still at the front end of this, just getting some of the context of who he is, who he was, and his passion for coaching and football and leadership. We haven't even got into the reason this book was written, because it's how a no-name company led by a high school football coach revolutionized the life insurance industry. I don't know if you guys know how big the life insurance industry is, like ridiculous, okay? And I know this story, for those of you that don't know, I worked for 8 years, from 2004 to 2012, for not A.L. Williams, but the company that he sold A.L. Williams to. Okay, so Citigroup, a big bank out of New York, all the suits, corporate. They bought his company, changed the name to another name, and that's where I worked. And I was there for 8 years. Great experience, learned a lot, but I also learned a few things about corporate that I don't align with. And that's why I'm pretty excited to get to do what we do today, to advocate and be crusaders for what we feel is injustice in a lot of different areas. We have a lot of different causes within our community. Coach Adams always says, do what's right because it's the right thing to do. And that's what we're building on. So thank you for being here. Let's jump right into it. We're still in the chapter of Baxley. We're just going to finish it up. There's a page and a bit on that, and then we'll jump into chapter 7. So let's get right to it. How many of you are enjoying it so far? Okay, good. If you're enjoying it now, wait till we really get into it. I mean, it's a lot. It's going to take us a bit, but we're going to get through this. All right, so today we're going to start with Waycross. By the time we played number 1 ranked Waycross that fall, we had won 4 games and lost just 1. The whole town buzzed with school spirit. Every Friday night, Baxley people packed out the stands. I felt pleased with our progress, but playing Waycross was a different story. We just weren't in the same league as the Gators. They had a long history of winning, with lots of players going on to major football schools like Georgia, Florida State, and Nebraska. They were awesome. Baxley had not beaten Waycross in 12 years. I honestly felt a 28-point loss would be a great effort by our team. But of course I told them how confident I was that we'd shock the whole state and beat the number 1 team. Friday night we welcomed 2 Trailway buses from Waycross. As it turned out, it wasn't the team. It was the band. Just the band took 2 Trailway buses. Our high school didn't even have a band. 2 more Trailway buses pulled in. The doors opened and football players started piling out. They just kept coming and coming. 60 players and 8 varsity coaches. Our school had 19 players and 2 coaches. Lou and me. We were scared to death. But as the game got underway, I stopped being scared. Our boys were playing like their lives depended on it and holding their own against a far superior team. More incredibly, they were winning. Near the end of the third quarter, the score was 7-6 in our favor. All the hard work and extra conditioning was paying off, but a grueling fourth quarter lay ahead. The ultimate test. Near the end of the third quarter, we found ourselves in a gut check situation. The ball sat on our own 25-yard line with 4th down and 1 skinny yard to go. I called timeout, but the boys knew what I was going to say. We'd gone over this play 100 times. We never punted on 4th and 1. It was one of my principles. If we couldn't get 1 yard for a first down, we didn't deserve the win. The boys charged out. Waycross defensive line stopped us cold, then turned the offense around for a quick short touchdown. We moved into the fourth quarter with the Gators leading 13-7. The fans howled. They thought I had just made the dumbest call in the history of high school football. But the game wasn't over. In the middle of the fourth quarter, we scored another touchdown and kicked the extra point, putting us back on top, 14-13. Now, could our defense hold the tough Gator offense until the clock ran out? This was it. We were looking at making history if we could tough it out for a few more minutes. Alex Johnson, the linebacker, has a quote here. He says, Coach Williams had us believing we were not supposed to get hurt. And if you did get hurt, nobody better know it. I broke my leg in the 5th game of my sophomore year. I ran off the field myself. There was no way anybody was going to know I was hurt until after the game. At this moment, I spotted one of my linebackers, Roy Skinner, limping around all over the field. A very bad move on his part. I was furious. Here we were, about to beat the number 1 team in the state, and Roy decided to get hurt. I called timeout. And boy, I let Roy have it. If you get hurt, I'm not going out there to pick you up, I yelled. And I'm not going to call timeout again either. If you get hurt, or anybody else. I waved my arm at the whole team. It's your job to get yourself off the field. We're not stopping the whole game because of you. Got it? He got it. Roy ran back out onto the field. Our defense held, and we won the game. We won. We upset the number 1 team in Georgia. Those ragtag boys, the same ones who couldn't beat last year's losers in spring scrimmage, pulled off the impossible. That game tested us all, and we passed with flying colors. It changed Baxley's attitude for good. We learned that you don't outsmart people in the big leagues. You outwork them. If your players are tougher, believe in each other, and are motivated to win so bad, then they have a chance to beat anybody. They can beat bigger and more talented teams. They can even beat teams with bands, trailway buses, and 8 daggum coaches. Rewards. It was all over the papers how little old Appling County beat the mighty Waycross Gators. I was so proud of those guys, I couldn't stand it. Over and over, I told them, football's not a team game. Football is a game between you and that guy in the wrong colored jersey on the other side of the line. Somebody's going to win, you or him. The guy who wins is the guy who wants it most. This philosophy became an unwritten law. Later on at A.L. Williams, you can never show hurt, never show doubt, never show quit. The difference between great and average is that much. And that extra edge is always mental toughness. We went 7-3 that first season, Baxley's best record in 20 years. I'd given out small awards every week, all season long, but I really poured on the praise at our end of the season banquet. Recognition didn't exist before I came, and I couldn't wait to give out awards. All the players got letter jackets, trophies, and t-shirts. Lou and I made speeches about each one of them. When those kids walked out that night, they knew they had done something they could be proud of the rest of their lives. In turn, the town showered Angela and me and Lou with gifts. A shotgun and a case of shells, a new freezer filled with beef, a stereo, a year's membership to the Appling County Country Club. It felt like Christmas. At the Georgia Sports Writers Banquet that winter, I was honored with my first Georgia Coach of the Year award. How amazing to look back on that year, 1967. What looked like the worst disaster of my life had turned into a triumph, not just for me, but for the whole town. Beating Waycross, the number 1 team in the state, became a defining moment in my life. Our Baxley team had pulled off the impossible. It taught me a valuable lesson. You win with your heart. My players wanted to prove to everybody that they were special, and they were willing to do whatever I asked of them to win. I asked a lot, and they gave a lot. They taught me the heart power could beat talent. I never forgot that. In fact, that lesson learned would play out over and over again in the years ahead. Some of the best things in life come out of the deepest disappointments if you're tough enough to fight through the obstacles. That's the end of that chapter on Baxley. Just going to take a quick peek here. Kendrick is 1, 2, 3, 4, which is 8 pages. Doing that tomorrow? We're going to do that tomorrow. Let's put a pin in it right there, and let's just close out with a thought. How many of you have been through or are going through a circumstance, a situation, or a challenge right now? Just raise your hand. Yeah. Pretty big class. You know, they say that life, we're either coming out of or going into a crisis. Always. Coming out of or going into a crisis. And the truth is, and why a lot of athletes do well in business, is because your mindset, your what? Even Karma knows. Your mindset is what matters in those dark seasons. It's your mindset. And that's why we work so hard on mental toughness. Just look in your life. Look at people that are winning. Look at people that are struggling. And you'll hear what they're saying, what they're talking about, what they're focused on, how they take coaching. Do they take it on like, yeah? Or do they take it personal and want to dig their heels in and stay with the way they think? If the way they think has got them to where they are, but they're not willing to take coaching, do they really want to change? I'm told I'm a pretty tough coach. I don't think I'm anything to Coach Williams. But man, would I love a coach like that in my ear every day. But maybe I'm just built different. How about you? My name is Roderick H. Norville, Full Circle Podcast. What's your story? This has been another episode of LCAO Book Club. Coach, the A.L. Williams story. We'll see you guys tomorrow.